All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Amber Stultz. I'm the Black Professionals Network Chair-elect, and today we are hosting our Historically Black Colleges and Universities panel, our roundtable. So in honor of Black History Month, this is the purpose of why we're hosting this roundtable. The panel questions and topics were inspired by the HBCU experience, education, culture, and impact. This was a session on YouTube hosted by Grind City Media, the Memphis Grizzlies NBA basketball team in collaborations with partners in 2021. Questions from this panel, and quote from this panel about the HBCU experience, HBCUs have produced doctors, lawyers, entertainers, people that have contributed to every facet and phase of our society. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Alex to introduce himself and the rest of our panel.
Perfect. How we doing, everyone? Thank y'all for coming. My name is Alexis. I go by he and his pronoun. I'm one of the program planning and development chair with my co-Taylor. And the Black Professional Network and the PWI, we felt that it was important to further discuss these topics at HBCU regarding students and staff directly, and hearing from our colleagues that work on these campuses as well. So today we have our fantastic moderator, Maurice Whitsett Jr. at Florida Agriculture and Mechanical University, FAMU, who will further explain our role today as moderators, panelists, and assist with introducing the panelist members. And I want to take the time to thank every single one of y'all for taking the time to break bread with us today. So thank you.
Yes, so good afternoon, everybody. Once again, thank you so much to Amber and Alexis for allowing me to serve as the moderator. Like they said before, my name is Maurice Whitsett Jr. I use the he, him, his series of pronouns. I currently serve as the Assistant Director for Residential Operations at Florida A&M University. I would like to always do, and it's not a shameless plug, I am an HBCU grad. I graduated from the Great Bethune-Cookman University. So yes, people may think that's a controversy, but at the end of the day, it's HBCU love, and we just gonna keep rocking. So I have the opportunity to serve as the moderator, and we have some great individuals who are on the panel. So I'm gonna introduce them, and then we will get started with our questions. So the first we have Dr. John Lowney he's the Executive Director for North Carolina A&T. We have Bianca Holley, who is the residential director for Langston University. We have Aaron Batiste, the Director for Residential Life and Student Conduct at Harrison Stowe State University. Jaquan Nelson, Area Coordinator for North Carolina Central University, and Julius McCray, Hall Director for Southern University and A&M College. So yes. All right. So if anybody else has any questions, or if I pronounce your name wrong, I apologize. If you want to correct me, we can. This is all love. All right. So we're going to get started with our first question. And the first question is, if you could choose one or two words to describe HBCUs, so legacy, opportunity, culture, history, unity, others like to use that good word, illustrious. What word would you choose and why? Anyone from the panel, y'all can jump right on in and speak.
Okay,
I would say
I'll go ahead.
personified.
And I'll go and I'll say two words that stick out to me is resilient and confident.
One word. Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, my favorite word I hear all the time is going to be tradition. HBCUs are big and built on tradition, and they mean a lot.
Two words I would add would be enthusiasm and pride. All of the HBCU alum that I know are very proud to represent the institutions that they attended. So.
Thank you all so much. So I know some of you all gave your rationale. So if we can just go back real quick and just say why we chose those words, that'd be great.
Okay, I'll go. So the reason I said resilient and confident is resilient because, of course, we know HBCUs, whatever is thrown at us, it doesn't matter. We work through them. regardless. And I said confident because being an HBCU alum from Jarvis Christian University, it gave me the confidence that I never had before I attended my HBCU, like that I can do anything and everything, and I can step on any platform and do great work. So those are the reasons why I chose those two words.
Yeah, I chose tradition because I think if you work at HBC or attended, you know there are certain rules and boundaries or traditions, as they call them, that you have to go by. And I think a lot of things, if you try to change those traditions or even try to even shake them up a little bit, you get a little pushback behind them. So they can be good and bad, but tradition is one thing that most HBCUs stand on. If it's something that we're good for, they're going to stand on a tradition.
I shared enthusiasm and pride because, as I mentioned, there's no pride that I know like HBCU pride. All of the alum that I know are proud alum of their institutions. The students that I get a chance to work with are proud students and represent their universities to the highest regard.
I chose excellence personified because my perception is that, you know, as a Ronald McNair scholar, there have been so many phenomenal achievements and accomplishments to society made by HBCU grads, and to see generations, multi-generations of people and families who are being enriched by this phenomenal experience. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Yeah, I'd like to share as well. I'm going to use two words, and those two words would be second chance. If I could describe Harrisdale State University, my alma mater, HBCU in St. Louis, I would describe her as the woman that gave me a second chance when nobody else did. Prior to attending Harrisdale, I didn't have the best grades, went to a community college. And as soon as I stepped foot on campus, I began to see change in myself, and I began to turn into the scholar that I am today.
I would also like to say, when we go to the word legacy, I think that right there, every HBCU prides itself in its legacy from start to finish. Like I would say, coming from Cookman, first thing you're gonna learn is that alma mater. First thing you also gonna learn is the history and the legacy that was of our founder, Dr. Bethune. And I think that goes with any other HBCU. Just from start to finish, you're gonna learn it. It's gonna be ingrained in you, and it's gonna be like pretty much another sense of your identity. So like when people are out here saying, you know, what school did you go to? And you say the name and they be like, what school is that? You sort of feel somewhat like you feel some type of way. They're like, how you don't know this great institution? And then you just got to run it down. And then also, I think another thing is like to Aaron, he said second chance. I would also agree, like HBCUs, they give second chances because they don't want to see failure. And I would also say another thing is the professors. The professors become like second parents to you, like they be on you. And it's kind of interesting, like, you know, sometimes your parent, like when your parents are fussing at you, you be like, yeah, they right, but they annoying you. But it's different when a professor is like really ingrained, like, you need to get your stuff together and like, I'm about to fail you. And you be like, most professors be like, yeah, I'm gonna fail you. And that's it. But for them, they just like, get your stuff together. You got this date to turn it in. Even like, they really do care about me. So it really does. It has that impact as well. So I would say that. So thank you. So we recognize that all of us are within housing. And so this next question is, in housing and residence life, what role do you have as a professional to serve students? And how might this role be similar or different than any other type of institution? And I can put it in the chat for you all. Yeah, it's not letting me out. One moment, I'm gonna type it in for you.
I can place it in the chat. You can just have somebody go ahead and respond.
Thank you, Amber. So
Okay, I think sometimes working in housing in your position, I think the biggest role that you have, I think sometimes as a mentor, even when you're not, because I think sometimes we see the students more than anybody else. Because when they're not in class at their different events, they're in housing. whether it's in the lobby or passing through. So I think sometimes you become a mentor or like a big brother or sister without even trying to. Because sometimes I know I have students that every day, if they don't stop by my office and speak to me, I know something's wrong. Because literally every day when they're passing through the building, they're going to stop by the office, say, hey, even if it's just for 30 seconds to a minute, they have to stop by and tell me about their day. So I think sometimes even without even trying, the biggest role we play is going to be mentors, and like, because we see these students every day.
I think one of the biggest differences between HBCUs compared to other universities or colleges is the fact that we do offer that family-like atmosphere. So, you know, you tend to become the uncle, the counselor, the this person or that person, and it doesn't actually matter what title that you hold. Even as the director at my institution, you know, my students see me for more than just the title. They see me as somebody who's here to help mold and shape their academic growth from the very moment they step foot on campus to the very moment that they graduate.
I would add, I think working in housing, we're all pretty aware that we wear many different hats. But I think working specifically at an HBCU, there's a different level of connection when you are working with students that resemble either experiences that you've seen or experiences that you've been through. So I'd like to think of myself as not only a first responder, but also a liaison and a guide to help students through some of the different situations that they might encounter, and just simply guide them through their on-campus experience as well.
We have no further thoughts. I agree with Julius when it comes to just the mindset of being that mentor, especially when it comes to our student staff. Like our student staff, they're with us from August all the way up till May when the students are gone. And you know, you really and truthfully get to, you're being more hands-on, you're being more of that mentor role, you're helping guiding them because they trust you a lot. And so they open up more to you about personal things and you take on that toll. So even though I may serve as an assistant director, I sometimes have to put on that mentor hat and just be like, all right, so you're in my office. Even though Julius might have said it's 1 to 2 minutes or 30 seconds, that whole entire thing could be like a whole hour. And I just like, at the end of the day, that student probably needed me more. So I'm gonna give him that time and I'm gonna give them that opportunity to have those conversations. But I also know at the end of the day, I have to get my job done. But my job is also to make that student impact and making sure that we are providing them with that exceptional student experience. So I think mentor is another one. It's a lot that we play. And it's not just assistant director, hall director, we just do it all. Even sometimes we are student engagement and just student programming, like we do it all. So it's interesting in the field of housing, especially at HBCU. Okay. So despite the reputation for producing Black excellence in our society, what are key factors regarding the ongoing discussions around HBCUs and their value? So financial support, systematic oppression, what are those thoughts?
I think two things come to mind when I look at Harrisville State University. When you look at the funding challenges with public HBCUs in general, you will clearly see the disparities since its inception. Harrisville alone, as far as the state alone receives a little bit more than $500 million for allocated funds, both from the federal and the state level to allocate to different universities and colleges. We receive a little bit less than 2% of that. So, you know, I've always learned, even as a student here, you know, if you show me where your money is, I'll tell you what's important to you. So I think that in general, when it comes to the funding that many HBCUs, specifically public, struggle with, I think we should definitely take a look at what are some interesting ways in which we can actually make sure that things are equitable. But on the other note, it also challenges us while we work at these HBCUs to be very unique in solving our own situations as it pertains to funding.
I think when I think about HBCUs, certainly working at the #1 HBCU in the nation, it is, I was at a senior housing officers for North Carolina professionals, and we were having our meeting, a quarterly meeting, and I articulated that I worked at the #1 HBCU in the nation, and at dinner, a colleague of mine said, is that some sort of marketing strategy? And I had to explain, we had outranked Harvard, Yale, and the Wharton Business School for MBA, just based on sheer data. And I think that sometimes folks who may be outside of HBCUs don't understand or may not understand that there are phenomenal things happening there. We are on track to become Research One within the next, I would say 2 to 5 years. And of course, Morgan State is on track, of course, to become a Research One organization as well. So meaningful research is happening, and there are phenomenal things happening, but I just don't think the general society expects those things to be happening, or even is aware that these things are happening at minoritized institutions such as HBCUs, but they are. And my thing is, I don't necessarily engage in discussions that, I think parking validation is for parking only. So I don't really engage in conversations to compare or to validate, the HBCU that I work at, because, it's not needed. We are doing phenomenal things, and the data shows it. And many minoritized institutions are doing phenomenal things, and the data shows it. Minoritized institutions are produce more people of color who graduate with degrees than any other type of institution that there is. And of course, that's what raw data shows. So I think that it's important that we begin to look at the impact that I would say Deion Sanders has had in bringing attention and having scholarship athletes go to historically Black colleges and universities. I think that now people are recognizing there is excellence, and this notion of having, I'm not averse to going to PWIs, but I think that, the recognition, I think that HBCUs are now getting for being phenomenal places should continue and should be certainly enhanced, not reduced in any way.
Thank you so much, Dr. Leonard. Any other thoughts before we move on?
I think another thing is also comparison. I think a lot of time HBCUs are either compared to each other, or if not, our PWIs counterparts. I know we're living here in Baton Rouge and actually working here, we're compared a lot to LSU because we're in the same big city, and there are a lot of things that they compare us a lot to, just because we're in the same city, even though we're two totally distant, totally different institutions and serve a different demographic of people, we're compared a lot.
So I do know we do have another panelist who joined us, Magda. She's actually online. So if she would like to introduce herself and just give some shout out and praise for where she is, we can just definitely let her take the time to do so.
Hello, everyone. So sorry for joining in late in the conversation, but the conversation was going really well. I didn't want to interrupt, but my name is Magda. I serve as the Assistant Director for Housing Services at North Carolina Central University. And I'm glad to be here as the former chair of the Black Professionals Network for PWIs. Really excited to see this go on. So kudos to folks who are here and getting connected and learning more about our HBCUs.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we're gonna go into this next one. It's a two-parter. So for those who did attend, for those who just work For those who attended an HBCU, how did you choose that institution? And then for those who worked at an HBCU, what reasons do your students want to attend HBCUs? And what reason did you choose to work at an HBCU?
So I'll go. The reason why I chose my HBCU, again, Jarvis Christian, now university, when I attended, it was college. To be honest with you, I put myself in that category of the percentage of first gen students who have no idea. I was one of those students that had no idea what HBCU meant, why it was important at all. All I knew is I wanted to go to college. I wanted to get away from my demographic of where I lived, how I grew up, and I wanted something different. And it was literally like Jarvis landed in my lap through word of mouth. And that's how I got to Jarvis. And the best decision that could ever happen to me was attending an HBCU and really understanding the culture, what it means to be at a historically Black college and university, and the importance of it. So.
Thank you, Bianca.
I think I ended up attending my university, Southern University, was because I went to a predominantly white high school. So it was like I needed a change of environment for myself, something different. I was like, I wanted to be surrounded by my people. And then I already went to school here in Baton Rouge. So it was just like, my mom was like, you can't go too far, because I'm a mama's boy. And she's like, you can't go too far from the house. So there's not that many HBCUs in Louisiana. So it either came down between Grambling and Southern ended up being chosen as my choice. And then working here now, I think the biggest reason why most students choose HBCUs is because the alum themselves. A lot of students I have now are legacy students, their parents attended, or they had a cousin that attended, or I know certain HBCUs are like, or parents would be like, my child's not going anywhere else. That's the only place I'll send my money. So a lot of students, they end up at HBCUs by choice, and their parents is like, I'm not sending you anywhere else. If I'm going to pay for it, then it has to be a school of that.
So in regard, I would speak from my own personal experience. Yes, growing up in Florida, not many people know that there's actually 4 HBCUs in the state of Florida. They only hear about 2, Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman. And so for me, I had the opportunity to know all about these institutions because from where I'm from Miami, so Florida Memorial, but I also did have family that attended Florida Memorial. Have family in Jacksonville, Edward Waters, but also had family at FAMU and also Bethune-Cookman. A good chunk of my friends wanted to go to FAMU. This is where they wanted to go. For me, I knew about Bethune-Cookman, but I just really didn't know much about it. And just for going over to Cookman and just seeing what the campus is about, seeing the investment that was there, it was just perfect for me because I was just like, I knew I could be ready for a big school because I did get my master's from 2 PWIs, but I was just like, you know what? It just felt right for me during that time. And I will say when I attended this, like Cookman, 4 years, those were the best 4 years of my life. Like I would say from when I left high school to when I graduated college, a complete 180. Like I was more out there, I was more vested, and it was just like the push that they provided for you. And, you know, I think a lot of people, when we talk about the legacy and we talk about the second chances and all those things like that, our institutions give us those, like they give us all of that and more. You know, we recognize that some schools may have it all, but HBCUs, they may not have it. They may not have the top-notch, state-of-the-art residence halls and all those things like that. You may hear your parents say, well, I lived in this dorm too. I was like, oh, Lord. But, you know, it's like, at the end of the day, you just feel it because you're not in your room. You're actually connecting with people. You're invested, like they're here experiencing life with you. And I would say it's a great experience. And I would say interacting with students here, it's the same notion. Like FAMU, it was their top notch. That was their only option, or they provided them with the best financial aid. It was the best programs and they didn't want to go nowhere else. And so I enjoy hearing those stories because students actually, they take pride you know, when you go to like a Florida State or LSU game, you see that pride that students take being there. But it's a little different when you are at an HBCU game or just like a classic. It hits different from start to finish. So having that opportunity to see this and just experience it is great.
I want to add something real quick. Hi again, I'm Magda. So I'm originally from Boston, well, from Haiti, right? So I am Haitian and Caribbean immigrant. My parents migrated to the US, and then we were in Boston, right? So my family, their legacy was schooling, all that stuff in Boston. So I graduated from the University of Massachusetts Amherst, right? But I did my high school in Florida. So I think a lot of how we function or how we choose institutions, right, is about access and choice, right? What do we have access to? What guidance counselors told us about, and maybe states funding, all those things play into what institution that we choose to attend. And being how I grew up, I wanted to go to UMass Amherst because my dad graduated from UMass. I knew I wanted to be there. I wanted to be a part of that situation. But one thing that was always important to me was the fact that I always knew I was the Black person in the room, because growing up in Haiti, everybody looked like me. But moving to the US, it was a different situation. I'm used to Black doctors, Black lawyers, Black presidents, because that's how I grew up. But being in the US, it became something completely different. So I always advocated for folks who look like me because I knew I had a lot of privilege in how I grew up, but I also didn't see a lot of people who look like me in my classrooms. So I always wanted to be that voice. So, and to be completely honest, my first HBCU experience was at Winston-Salem State University. I spent 7 years at that institution working for their housing program, and it was one of the best experiences of my life. And for number one, it was a job, right? It was a job. You know, you go to TPE, you try to get a job, and you're excited to walk out with an opportunity. But one of the real reasons why I stayed for 7 years was because I saw my impact. I see the grit that you need to have to be in these programs and to work and produce good work. Being at a HBCU in a housing program, it's pretty tough because most of the housing programs are not operating like traditional student affairs based in a PWI standard programs, right? So when you go into these programs, and to work, you got to put in work. You got to make connections with students. You got to put in that oomph to get the job done to the best of the PWI standards, or the standard of what you would have expected if you was a student attending that institution. And I think a lot of folks don't want to do that. You go to some of these predominantly white institution programs and you get your experience. You may have to deal with adversity, or your voice may not be heard, or you have to deal with the microaggressions and all that other stuff that adds to your day-to-day. You can't move up and all these other things, or you can move up and you're excelling. Whatever the case may be, it's your experience. But what I say that at a historically Black college, from my experience, I was doing things that my folks in my cohort who were in my field weren't doing, right? Because I had to get into the nitty-gritty, learning more about operations, learning more about facility, on-call responsibilities, like a lot of those things, and help me as a professional manage it, because I was lucky enough to have a director that was strong in a PWI, right? Her presence was known in a PWI, she understood the standards and operated her program that way, right? But I can't say that for all our HBCUs. I can't say that they're all functioning at the highest ability with the best practices, but it takes folks like us, everyday folks, not to say we're saving these schools, because we're not, but people who want to actually do the work, right? Doing the work because they had a great experience when they were in college, right? Doing the work because they actually enjoy what they do. They want to seek more knowledge. They want to get that experience. People who actually want to have the grit to stay in these spaces to make that change they want to see in the world, right? So again, I chose my HBCU experience because it was a job, but I saw a director who had a vision. I understood her vision. It was grounded in theory. It was grounded in best practices. And I decided to be at that institution to work hard. And now, same thing with this institution I am now. I have a director who has a vision, who understands best practices, who is working hard to get the department operating on best practices for our students, not because they're trying to whitewash the space, but to make it easier and better for our students who are attending these institutions. And I see a lot of directors in other spaces in our state that's doing their thing, trying to make sure that they're running their programs to the best abilities. And our institutions academically are doing what they have to do. So our student affairs programs and our housing programs and all the other programs that support students need to start operating in a best practice mindset, not because they're getting the job done, but best practice, because this is what our students deserve. That's my
Thank you so much. It's okay. Yes, you was preaching to us and you was giving us everything we needed to know. So just like Amber said, we are almost up to time. So if you all have any questions, definitely put them in the chat and we will definitely be able to respond to those. So this next question is, the Divine Nine are historically Black fraternities and sororities who are committed to advancing and educating and serving their respective communities. We recognize that 5 of them were founded at Howard University between 1908 and 1920. So Alpha Kappa Alpha, Omega Psi Phi, Delta Sigma Theta, Phi Beta Sigma, Zeta Phi Beta, and Iota Phi Theta, who was founded at Morgan. And then we have our additional organizations, Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi, and Sigma Gamma Rho, who were founded at predominantly white institutions. We have these organizations on our campuses. What role do these organizations have regarding the HBCUs, the collegiate experiences, and the contributions to our society? Bianca, you could jump in. You took the mic off. Go ahead.
I believe that these orgs are very important on our campuses, and the role that they play is setting the example. Right? We understand that the organizations look fun. They look like, oh, they party all the time, but it's more to them. But they set the example on the campus of getting the students, for me, in my opinion, academically ready, because we know you got to have the GPA. So that pushes students more to, pay attention more to their academics. Also setting the example of how to actually build community. So when they do go out in society, how they give back to their community, how they, go in and implement things in the community to help the communities grow.
All right. Got any more people out there? Even with our audit, even with our individuals who are a part of the audience, if you are a part of a D9 and you have some contribution to this conversation, definitely jump in.
I will go ahead. I know I'm in a different role here, but obviously I'm wearing my Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated shirt. So shout out to the Finer. Anyway, so I think the role that historically Black colleges and universities play in terms of the Divine Nine, a lot of our organizations were founded. I see Hey Sor, hey. A lot of our organizations were founded at a point in time where we weren't even able to get access to education. So we had to form the historically Black colleges university, and it was really the pillars of excellence and things like that. I think one thing about the D9 is we're making history today. Some of our organizations are the first predominantly Black organization on some of these campuses. They play a lot into the Black college experience, not just for those who are a part of the Greek organizations, but we host events and socials and fellowships. We like to get the student body involved in community service and things like that. We offer scholarship pageants and awards from our high school students, and even some at the college level, we have scholarships and pageants and things of that nature. I do want to give context that I am not an HBCU grad or alum or anything like that. I am a PWI grad and an HB supporter. So I think that's important context for the panel today. But I thought because of the D9, I do have some context to join in on the conversation and add some discussion points.
Thank you, Amber.
Okay, so quickly, I will just say, as a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, I am a proud, yes, ooh, I see you. But again, I've worked at a HBCU for about 8 years. Actually, my whole professional career has been working at a historically Black college and university, and it's on purpose. How we contribute. A lot of our organizations were founded in one, and you know, we look to those organizations because they're pillars in our community, right? But my question is, what are these organizations doing for our HBCUs now? Like, I want that conversation to continue happening, because we're a part of these organizations. We're doing great things in our communities, and there's, you know, we'll cross, you know, lines of 70 at these HBCUs and have like a line of 2 at a predominantly white institution if a line crosses, right? But not every institution is like that. I remember working at Winston State University. You know, some chapters haven't been on the campus for some time, right? But my experience at a predominantly white institution, we're thinking that HBCU homecoming and all these people are across, but that's not on every campus. Now, what's the conversation? Are students still attending HBCUs and wanting to join these organizations? Are these organizations giving back to these HBCUs? Like, what's the context about that? Like, are we proud to be on these college campuses? Which we are, because I could walk around campus right now in the Greek Bowl, and I see the plots and everything, and then, you know, we're live during homecoming, right? But when it comes to bringing in another line or having students to join an organization, what that conversation looks like, or what are we doing? But at the end of the day, these organizations are here to help assist students. So it's the people who are in it that needs to continue to shine their light, so that way other folks could see that light, so they could follow and shine theirs, right? To inspire that growth and inspire folks. But the conversation with HBCUs is making sure that we get the students that not only want to be here, but I can excel and build those brands at those schools as well, right? So we need to continue using the Divine Nine, because at every predominantly white institution that I've been to, we always look, as a member of the D9, we look at HBCUs and be like, yo, like, they do so much. There's a lot of people there. They have more members, like, they're shining their lights, right? And shine their lights make you want to see those institutions, look at those institutions and look up to those institutions. So it's the same concept. So folks who are on the campus, off the campus, whatever we got to do to shine our lights on these HBCUs to get those stellar students. Because I remember being at Winston. Winston had like the #5 nursing program in the state of North Carolina, #1 in HBCUs, period, right? Their nursing program is amazing. But when you look at graduation and see the students who graduate from that nursing program, you would think it's a predominantly white institution. Why is that, right? So are we shedding the right lights on these programs? Why, or do we have the excellent students wanting to come to these schools to leave their legacies, right? What are their competitions? It's not a competition, but are we doing what we need to do to shine our lights on these campuses to get those excel students, those students who want to join those organizations, students who want to leave a legacy to come, so that way they could do so at these institutions?
Thank you so much. So we are almost up to time. So I just definitely want to let you all answer, ask any questions, so you can put them in the chat. Raise your hands. We can do whatever to get for you all to ask questions for the panelists.
Hello, I'm Joshua Williams, Residence Life Coordinator at Benedictine University. It's a PWI. I just have it actually in reverse. So, like, as a African-American Black individual professional working at, I know some of you all do work at PWIs, some of you all do work at HBCUs. How does that affect you working at a PWI versus working at a historically Black college? Because I have worked at both. And so I'm trying to get that balance of how can I be effective at both institutions, or gain the knowledge from both different perspectives, or gain knowledge from both perspectives to be a resourceful and a helping hand in our youth education.
Anybody want to take a stab at it?
I'll take a stab at it. I've worked at 3 HBCUs and probably 4 PWIs. And the transition is always interesting. The structure I found in the HBCUs is not as firm and as hard as it is in the PWI. So you're a lot freer in HBCUs to do some things that you aren't in PWIs. The other side of that is that you learn different things at different places, at least I have. And one, going back to, I think somebody said earlier, working at HBCU makes you resourceful because you don't have a big wallet that you can go to the director. I was the director in both cases, in some cases, in both places. And when I was at a PWI, I could throw money at issues. At an HBCU, you have to figure out how to solve the issue without the money. And I think that's the biggest takeaway for me.
Thank you so much. Daquan, I know you was about to hop in there.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and add to some of the things Mr. Smith shared. I think for myself, it has definitely been a transition in just me understanding how I'm connected to my work and the students that I get to work with. I've worked at primarily PWIs, and this is my first HBCU experience. However, in the 7 months that I've been here, I can certainly see the difference in my interactions with students. I can certainly see the difference in how we put practice into place based off of our funding and resources. And I think for me, it's just been joyous to feel connected and see students that look like me and hear their experiences and how that might resemble some of the things that I've experienced. Of course, it's different as a PWI graduate. However, I still have that ability to connect with the students here, provide them with mentorship, and overall help them for life after college. So I think, like I said, the transition has certainly been interesting, but I definitely feel more connected in my day-to-day work. I feel like my conversations are a lot smoother. And that is what I probably appreciate most about being in this environment.
Thank you so much. I know, go ahead, Aaron.
I appreciate it. I think, so I can definitely speak on that. My previous institution that I worked at was a PWI, and the transition to working at my alma mater was like night and day. I can honestly say that you will get an experience like no other. You will learn, you will grow. You will have to fight. You would have to figure some things out on the fly. Everything will be thrown at you, including the kitchen sink. But the overall benefit of that is the fact that you will come out on top. And not only that, but you'll also be able to pour in and mentor to students that were just like you when you were coming up. So that's one of the main reasons as to why I chose to take this position this past February as the Director of Residential Life and Student Conduct. And I'll be coming up on my 1-year anniversary in the next 5 days.
So we have one more question. The question is, how can colleagues who don't work at HBCUs support the efforts, initiatives, and engagement with opportunities to support HBCUs and stay informed on these topics? So that's for our panelists to answer.
I would say partnership. I think you can support HBCUs by certainly collaborating and reaching out. One of the things that I'm pretty intentional about, of course, we partner with our phenomenal colleagues over at Central. We have partnered with UNCG. I think being able to cross-train or to provide training in tandem where students get the opportunity, our students get the opportunity to understand what it's like to work at a different institution, what compensation looks like, the differences. I think those add to our student experiences. And I think that the way that colleagues who work at PWI can support is by certainly collaborating through programming and joint training when you're in close proximity to one another, because there are things that HBCUs, you can learn from HBCUs, and vice versa, HBCU students can learn from engaging with PWI institutions as well. And the other thing is being able to, I think it's important to be able to learn more about HBCUs and how they serve a major section of our society, and that kind of thing. I think that's something that is important as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lowney.
I just want to reiterate what Dr. Lowney said with partnership. Like it's truly important to have those experiences. I remember bringing a group of students to just the statewide RHA conference, and we were always the only HBCU at that space. And I believe A&T ended up joining us the last time I brought a delegation to the NACAR, which is the North Carolina Association for Residence Halls. And when we were doing our chants and spirits, right? Because that's what those competitions are, not competitions, those conferences are about, students, chanting, spirit, people having a great time and learning from each other. A lot of students at these schools were asking, what's a HBCU? Why are they singing the HBCU song? Like, what does that mean? And that's important to be in those spaces, right? Because not only were my students able to educate, right, but those students at those institutions were able to learn. So I think the collaboration is important, because bringing students into those spaces is going to shape the next generation, to be honest, right? Having those conversations early on, seeing what those things are about, understanding that value while you're in that tender years of college. A lot of us work in higher ed because something touched us while we were undergraduate students, right? That made us want to work at an institution and made us want to give back, right? And being able to be in a space with predominantly white institutions or HBCUs or HSIs, and being able to be there and connect with those students and build, right, those relationships is important. I'm gonna say just one little story, because I remember there's a point in time where our students took a picture and they put up like the W for Winston State, or a lot of schools have like their little mascot signs. A lot of schools have it. And then one member from one institution said, oh, my school don't have a gang sign. But just imagine the education that happened in that moment, right? The education that happened in that moment, the realism that happened there, to be able to understand that once that student gets out that space in their university, they're able to have a different conversation with other people, and they're able to inspire people in a different way because of that experience. And that experience for my students who felt some type of way when that comment was made. But it's important to have those collaborations, to have those connections. So if you know folks that work at HBCUs, don't work at HBCUs, and you want to support us, it's figuring out how we get our students in the same space to have conversations, because that's what's going to be important in terms of how we're going to move forward once these students get out of our spaces.
Thank you so much. So I'll end off on two things and I'll turn it back over to our chairs. The first one is Raekwon. To be honest with you, the question was the transition. Do you feel like the transition from working at a PWI to a majority of your career to a HBCU will be difficult? So I'll echo to what Terrence has said. I don't think so. It's just more so learning about the culture of your institution. That's the most important thing. Once you learn about that culture, you'll be fine. It's gonna take some time and just give yourself grace. But as long as you're good and you're willing to, bend, not break, then you'll be perfectly fine. But also, I just think, to Magda's point, we are fortunate over here at FAMU to where our director, Dr. Wilder, she did support us to actually host LEAP, which is the conference for FRAs and everything like that. So 13 institutions will be coming to FAMU tomorrow. And so my team is on here, they're getting stuff ready, and we just can't wait to actually provide that experience for them. Hopefully we don't get the questions of that gang sign, but we are willing to educate. So we ain't gonna have no problem in that area right there. And they're just gonna get what it is. So yeah.
All right, well, thank you so much to all of our panelists, our moderator, people who participated in asking questions and things of that nature. We are glad to have this session. Like these are super important conversations to keep going in our field, to keep the reputation and the excellence of our historically Black colleges and universities, as well as recognize our professionals who serve in these capacities across the country. So thank you so much for participating today. We do have some wrap-up announcements. So first, we're going to introduce the new BPN board. We have a new board for this year. So KUHUI works on an academic calendar from January to December. So the board has already transitioned, not academic calendar, actual calendar versus an academic calendar. So the board has already transitioned, even though we're still in the midst of our academic year. So like I said, my name is Amber Stultz. I am the chair-elect for the Black Professionals Network, which means I will be the chair the following year. I will also introduce you all to Alexis and Taylor, who are our programming chairs. They will then shift to our communications chairs, our member at large chairs, and then our engagement chairs. Will give TK a chance as chair to introduce ourselves, and we have closing announcements. But like I said, I introduced myself in my role. I'll go ahead and let Alexis introduce himself, and that means like Alexis and Taylor will be the ones emailing you all about sessions and programming and group me reminders and stuff. I am still around, so you can definitely still contact me, but know that they're going to be as the program and development chairs in that capacity now. So go ahead, Alexis.
Perfect. Thank y'all. Thank you again. So my name is Alexis. I use EMS pronoun. I'm a hall director here at the University of Connecticut, and I'm also the program planning and development chair for VPN with my co-Taylor.
Everyone, my name is Taylor George. I'm currently working at Florida State as a residence coordinator, and I'm one of the new programming and development chair-elects. So nice to meet you all.
Hey y'all, I am Kayla Harris, pronoun she, her, hers. I am currently a community director over at SIUE, Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville. I am the communications chair. I'm the one who keeps up with all of the listservs and everything else. I'm the one who sent the email to everybody earlier today. My co-chair, well, my chair-elect is Javon. Is he here?
I sure am. Hi,
Yeah.
everyone.
Hey.
My name is Javon Stubbs. I'm also a residence hall director up here at the University of Connecticut with Alexis. And I will be the communications chair-elect for this year.
Raquan.
All right, how's everybody doing? My name is Raquan Lunkin. I'm the residence coordinator here at Florida State. I am the chair of the member at large committee. And I believe I'm gonna be working a lot with Brian Spates, I believe I can't pronounce your last name, correct me if I'm wrong. Okay, perfect. But I'm happy to be in this position.
Brian.
Hi, everyone. My name is Brian Spade. I am a coordinator for Residence Life here at the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. I will be serving as the member at large co-chair. Look forward to connecting with everyone and getting more of our membership, a member at large mentoring program up and going for the Black Professional Network.
All right, then any of our engagement or outreach and engagement folks on?
Yeah. Hey, y'all, I'm Saray Mapp. I currently serve as the Assistant Director of Residence Life and Housing at ABAC. So that's Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College. And I am the Outreach and Engagement Chair-elect. Mouthful.
All right, TK, go ahead.
Yeah, so hey everyone, I'm Teresa McKay or TK, and this is the awesome BPN leadership team, but I am the chair this year. So I was previously the chair like last year with Magda and Tiffany, so it's so good to see Magda's face. But thank you all so much for our presenters and being a part of this, and thank you all for showing up and taking up space so that we can be able to talk about issues that matter to us. We're learning and growing in this space, and I appreciate just all of the knowledge that was shared, all the questions that were asked, and overall just seeing all the faces is absolutely amazing. So thank you all for participating. Please stay connected with us. I think Kayla dropped the Connections Hub in the chat, and we have group me, we have all of the things. But I can't tell y'all enough how much we appreciate seeing your faces and getting y'all connected, because we try to give this space and make sure it's beneficial for everyone. So we really do appreciate it. A super big shout out to Alexis, Taylor, and Amber for all their work in putting this panel together, and all of our panelists coming out and really speaking to us and talking about things that matter to us is so important. So thank y'all so much. And we appreciate and love all of the energy in the space.
All right, we do have Joshua. I believe he is not with us today, but he is also serving in the outreach and engagement role, and they are at Temple University as the associate director of housing there. So just wanted to acknowledge we have a lot of people on the board. Those are some of the faces you may see in future communication. Our next program, I'll let Alexis explain that much of it. We're still getting a date, but I'll let you explain what the program is.
All right, so our next program is still in the works. So we're trying to work with our colleagues in our another network group, the Women's in Network. So Diana is here with us. So shout out to Diana for getting back to me. So looking forward to collaborating with y'all. So we're planning on hosting another roundtable in March, Black Women in Housing Roundtable, where we'll be discussing topics relative to how to navigate the world of res life and the world of higher ed through that lens, and kind of breaking bread with each other similar to today. But more information to come, more planning to come. So we'll be reaching out to y'all and give y'all more information on how y'all can join in the conversation as well. Right. Diana, you have anything to add?
Not at all. It's Deanna.
Deanna,
It's
sorry.
all love. It is all love. But I'm excited just to even be a part of what we're getting ready to do. Panelists, moderator, y'all did that. And that is all that I really do have to add. For those that know me, don't know me, please keep in touch. Don't be a stranger.
We do a last final call to see if anybody else wants to just introduce themselves, and now it's just going to be fellowshipping for a little bit now that the formal business is done, so but thank you all, so snaps, and yes, awesome time. Thank you all for joining. If you have to clock out to get to your actual positions and things like that, we are good to log off. We are good to end the recording as well.